information based on the guidelines, and that went out before the 16 days started. Every year, I think we've seen that the different clusters at the global level are interested. And last week, Astrid participated on women and economic empowerment with WFP. And tomorrow I will be speaking with the education cluster. They're having a 2-hour call that's with all of their members as well as coordinators, looking at how the education cluster and the GBV AoR are working together. So there have been different opportunities. I'm sure some of you have events that are also happening in different kinds of collaboration. So we're going to start. We have the Rigas who have been doing different things in different regions, and Jessica from the East and Southern Africa and Anna Stone from the Middle East are going to present some of the videos that they're sharing, and they'll talk about their campaigns, show one video each, and then just talk a little bit from the overview from the region. And just to say, there's been slightly different themes in each region that the Rigas have been supporting coordinators on, as well as us sort of amplifying, and Valentina, who is been working with us and really supporting the 16 days in comms, will also share what she's done with a couple of the women-led organizations. So I will start off by handing over to Jessica. Over to you, Jessica.
My joy came through without me unmuting. Hello, everyone. I hope you're all having a great 16 Days of Activism campaign. We have been very busy here in East and Southern Africa. I'll just talk for 2 minutes and then I'll show my video, and then I'll hand over to Anna. So here in East and Southern Africa, we have the regional GBV working group for East and Southern Africa. And many of you are probably on our mailing list, so have been inundated with all this amazing content that we have been generating over the past week. So our members have decided, or they decided, that we were going to focus on adolescent girls specifically during our campaign, because we realized with the drought, and then also lots of other sort of climate related issues, and then also conflict as well, that adolescent girls are often left behind. They don't naturally sometimes fit into child-friendly activities and spaces, and then they often don't also fit into adult spaces designed for women. And so we saw a lot of gaps and needs with that population, particularly with the drought. So members decided we would focus on adolescent girls. And in addition to the webinars that we have been hosting, that's really been looking at some of the particular vulnerabilities and risks, we have also been implementing a video campaign. And so every day of the 16 Days of Activism, thanks to UNICEF and some of our other partners, I should say all of our partners, but UNICEF has helped us edit these videos, but all of our member organizations have been the ones who submitted on behalf of adolescent girls. And so each day we highlight an adolescent girl who is a change maker or a human rights defender in their country and their community. And they could be someone that's really highly visible, or even someone who's really subtle in what they're doing. For instance, on the first day, we showcased a Roma who's a refugee from Sudan, from the Nuba Mountains, and she makes jewelry and does paintings that she sells in order to send back money to her village, so that vulnerable girls can still access education. All the way up to today, as we know, is the International Day for Persons with Disabilities. And we're really pleased to highlight Inaki, who is from Eswatini, the Mazini region of Eswatini. And this was a submission that was given to us by UNICEF through the Disability Inclusion, the Regional Disability Inclusion Working Group. And so I think I'll stop here and I'll let you see our video. But please do keep watching and spreading our videos widely, so we can make all of these amazing human rights defenders viral in their settings. So thanks, everybody.
I will fight I will fight for you. I always do until my heart is black and blue. And I will stay with you.
Hello, I am Inaki Shomwe, a 17-year-old member of the UNICEF Youth Board of Eswatini. I live in the Manzini region. For my education, I was enrolled in a private primary school because most public schools in the country do not have facilities which allowed for the inclusion of learners with physical impairments. For secondary education, I had to enroll in a public school, where I unfortunately experienced challenges and discomfort due to the school not having adequate facilities to cater for the needs of people living with physical limitations. I could not thrive in this new environment. I had to fight and speak out in order for my needs to be met. Due to my advocacy, other learners with physical disabilities have enrolled in the school. I believe encouraged by seeing one like themselves participating in public events and activities. Though these improvements have been implemented, they are not enough. I still feel there is a need for education and sensitization of society so that people living with physical limitations can thrive in mainstream society, to prevent them from being viewed as a burden and inconvenience. I am Inaki Shomwe, an advocate for rights of learners with physical disabilities.
So don't give up on me.
Thank you so much, Jessica. And can you just say, have you gotten feedback from or responses from adolescent girls who are watching your videos? Are you getting any, people contacting you to comment or react or express
Yes.
their interest?
Yeah, we've gotten really great feedback actually. So OCHA, who is one of our member organizations in the region, they've been sending out all of the videos to all of their comms people. So we've had hundreds and hundreds of views. We've been tracking them on YouTube and also on our Twitter. And then also the girls themselves, they've all written back and said how pleased they were sort of with the final product. I think they thought we've kind of dealt with it with dignity and we showed them in a really positive light, which I think many times during these campaigns, we tend to focus on a lot of negative things, and rightfully so. There is a lot of negative associated with this. So we've had really great feedback actually. So if you'd like to see these and spread them on your social media, you can look up at our YouTube channel. But I do want to, that submission today was from UNICEF, but we're so thankful to our other member organizations such as IFRC, AMREF Health, OCHA, UN Women, World Vision, many other organizations, UNHCR submitted, UNFPA submitted. So we've had a lot of our partners who have really gone out into their country offices to kind of identify these amazing human rights defenders and change makers that they've been working with. And so I think it's really great. We can now boost them to the world. Yeah, so thank you.
Thank you so much. And I think, at the core level, at the global level, also, we've been talking about the importance of focusing on adolescent girls who often are the ones left behind. And so I think this really shows, like you said, showing them as change makers and in very positive light. And it's great to see this happening concretely. And so you said YouTube channel is where people can find all the different videos?
Yes, and it looks like Shiva has already posted the link.
Yeah,
Thanks, Shiva. I have to say Shiva's been really great as well, because every morning I furiously write to her to upload the new video, because we're constantly, it takes a lot, which I'm sure Anna will also say. It's like 10 times back and forth. We have like thematic guides, how to write scripts, how to actually, do the videos. So it does, that little clip right there took about 10 times back and forth with Inaki and her guard, her guardian and others. So just we're really pleased that all of our members were so gracefully and graciously in so thanks. Great. Everybody.
Thank you. And everyone, please do share them. 16 days is not over yet. And you can help with amplifying, as was mentioned, that OCHA has been doing, and doesn't have to stay within the same region. So please do share with any of your counterparts or members or staff that or comms that you think can share them onward. So now we're going to move to Anna Stone, who's been doing a different kind of a campaign in the Middle East. Over to you, Anna.
Thanks, Jennifer, and good evening, good afternoon, everyone. So yes, for the Arab States region, we focused as a region looking at the critical role that women-led organizations play in responding to reports of gender-based violence as frontline response providers. We thought this was a really critical issue to highlight this year because we are seeing this across the region, from Lebanon, Gaza, in parts of Syria, and in parts of Sudan, that it is very much WLOs that are providing response services, whether that's as running the Women and Girls Safe Spaces or taking out the Women and Girls Safe Spaces as mobile spaces, or case management or provision of psychosocial support, as midwives, as nurses, that they are very much the backbone in many of our countries in the region in providing response services to survivors. And we really wanted to highlight that not only was it critical in the role of that as frontline response providers, but of course the WLOs have access to communities that in many of those countries I mentioned that international actors do not. And in highly political environments, that the WLOs have the trust of the community, which increases accessibility of vulnerable women and girls. And we also wanted to make sure that we highlighted the critical role of WLOs, that they're not just participants of humanitarian action, but of course that they are the drivers of transformative change. And I wanted to highlight that by playing one of our videos. We have not been as successful as Asara. We don't have 16. We have 10 videos that we've captured from a range of WLOs across the region. But I wanted to highlight one today, which is from the women's organization called Wadi, based in Sudan. And they expanded their support services to respond to the Al Jazeera crisis that took place about a month ago, that has seen hundreds of thousands displaced. And this is Wadi, who are providing support in Kassala, which is a state in Sudan. Thank you.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. نحن منظمة مبادرة دعم وتنمية المرأة وادي، سعداء أن نكون اليوم بينكم في أحد دور الإيواء بولاية كسلا. منظمة وادي منظمة طوعية وطنية تنشط في ولايتي سنار وكسلا، وتهتم بقضايا تنمية ومناصرة المرأة، حيث تم تنفيذ العديد من الأنشطة من ضمنها تدريب الكوادر الطبية ومقدمي الخدمة والقيادات الشبابية والنسوية لمحاربة مظاهر العنف المبني على النوع، وخاصة العنف الجنسي. ونحن بسبب الحروب في السودان تعرضت المرأة لمهددات كثيرة، من ضمنها ارتفاع حالات الاغتصاب والتحرش الجنسي والحمل الغير مرغوب فيه بنسبة عالية جدا، مما أدى إلى ارتفاع نسبة الإجهاض الغير آمن وارتفاع نسبة الوفيات للنساء في سن الإنجاب. كما تم تقديم خدمات الدعم النفسي والاجتماعي للفئات الهشة بالتوعية ضمن التوعية الخاصة والعامة للنساء والأطفال، واستغلال الجلسات الاجتماعية مثل جلسات القهوة. كما تهتم منظمة وادي برعاية صحة المرأة والأسرة والطفل وحمايتها من المهددات الصحية. كما تهتم أيضا بالتوعية والتثقيف الصحي في المجتمع لرفع الوعي لدى الشرائح المستهدفة واستغلال المنابر المختلفة، خاصة المعلمين والدعاء وأئمة المساجد، مأخذين في الاعتبار العادات والتقاليد والثقافة الخاصة بكل مجتمع.
بالأمل
So
Thank
we
you so
also,
much, Anna. Yeah, go ahead.
oh, no, I was going to say a little plug as well that we have ours on the YouTube channel for the AoR, and I can share the link and encourage everyone to look at the other videos we have and to please share within their networks as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and great to see you highlighting the women-led organizations in your region and all of the important work that they've been doing. And just to say, people are providing positive comments in the chat, so don't forget to read the chat. And if any questions come up for either Jessica or Anna, please feel free to also write them in the chat. So now we're going to move on to Lilian Munezero. Sorry, I'm not pronouncing your name very well. Who is the GBV coordinator in Cameroon, and she's going to share about her 16 days. Over to you. Lilian, if you're speaking,
Yes,
we
can you
can't
hear
hear.
me?
Now we can. So start over.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you very much, Jennifer. Hi, everyone. So I'm very happy just to have this opportunity just to share some of the key activities and interventions that GBV actors have been doing in Cameroon. As you know, Cameroon has been experiencing increasing feminicide with 67 women killed since January 2024. So the GBV AoR and the Minister of Women Empowerment and the Family decided just to focus this campaign on the criticality of GBV services. Hence, we have this theme for Cameroon, responding and rebuilding after the abuse, just highlighting the criticality of GBV services, availability and accessibility. So for the campaign, we have strong mobilization from different organizations, donors, local women-led organizations, international organizations. We did a lot of activity on the opening. And one of the key activities I want to highlight is that we take some moment just to remember the number of women who were killed since this 7, and we know that this is not the real number because many are not known. And we work together with the GBV, which is the only official television, online television, which is validated by the Ministry of Women Empowerment just to monitor the women who have been killed. And most of them have been killed by intimate partners, and because they didn't have access to services. That's why we focus all the campaign on the importance just to increase access to services. So during the opening ceremonies, the griot took time to explain the circumstances and the history behind every feminicide we have in Cameroon. And many of them were in Yaoundé, in the central region where Yaoundé is located. And unfortunately, we don't have many services in that region because many of the service points are focused in a humanitarian region, in a region affected by humanitarian crisis. So it was also an advocacy just to highlight why we need to have GBV services in everywhere, not only in humanitarian context. Another activity is that UNFPA is going to open a safe space in Yaoundé, which is a good thing in response to these needs. So there will be the opening ceremony on next week. So I will also share the report after the campaign. UN Women also joined the campaign, reinforcing their work with the gender desk based within the police. So they did a kind of workshop to review how they can improve their role in the law application against IPV and also feminicide. We have also another topic on technology-facilitated violence. So we are working with the AFRIAN, which is a network of young people in Africa who are very, very active online. So we are working on them to promote body rights and also to end all technology facilitated GBV. So AfriAm is very, very famous in Africa. So they are providing messages on stopping cyberbullying and also to ensure that everyone can access digital work without violence. Another highlight how UNFPA was able also to engage with Samuel Eto'o. Samuel Eto'o is one of the famous football team, and in Cameroon he's very, very famous. He's currently the president of the Cameroon Federation of Football, and he joined the campaign to also highlight the importance to protect girls and women in sport environments, and also to their ambitions in a sports area, because it's also an environment which is with a lot of violence, sexual exploitation. So he wanted to join this campaign with the UNFPA to show that they are also open to innovations to protect women and girls within the sport. So he's going to organize a big campaign with the young adolescent boys and girls, and also to take additional measures to protect women and girls within the FECAFOOT, the Cameroon Federation of Football. Thank you. So we are hoping to have other activities report pictures from other organizations as the campaign continues to evolve. I will be able to share the full report and the key achievement by the end of the campaign. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you so much. And I think the situation of femicide, I think we initially heard, starting years ago about how high femicide is and continues to be in Mexico, especially in the border area with the United States, in areas where they're exploiting young women who are working in the free trade factories. And now we know also Kenya has a very high femicide, that it's happening in many countries, and it's a heartbreaking situation. It seems to be a lot of impunity around the situation. And it sounds like, you're also taking a sort of that nexus angle also in Cameroon to look at, how are you working in both humanitarian settings as well as development settings, and actually taking some of your good practices like the safe spaces and putting them into development settings. So I think that's an interesting development, is also like, what can you transfer from humanitarian that we learned where there were those resources, and working with the government and with the ministry to make that happen in other locations. And it sounds like you've done a great job of engaging the government in Cameroon, as well as celebrities, sports, different age groups. So it's great to hear your experience, and wishing you a lot of good luck with the rest of your campaign as the days continue. Now I'm going to go to Valentina, she and Shiva have been working really hard together to amplify what's happening in the regions and to support. So I'm going to hand over to Valentina to share what she's been doing with a few of the women-led organizations that participate through the GBV AoR. Over to you, Valentina.
Thank you, Jennifer. Hello, everyone. So first, I would like to highlight our theme from GBV AoR, which is tracing the regions and standing against GBV. And we choose this theme because we wanted to highlight the role of women-led organizations, especially highlighting the origins itself of the 25th of November, which was thanks for the gathering of multiple women-led organizations and also feminist organizations in Latin America. So we recollect some stories from women-led organizations to create these posters in which they highlight how 16 Days campaign have helped them to raise awareness and advocate to address GBV effectively and meet the needs of the survivors during humanitarian context. So Shiva is presenting. This is the first poster that we did about Women for Change. That is a women-led organization based in South Sudan. And the other one is Tinta Violeta, which is a feminist organization based in Venezuela. So you can find these posters in our social media, and also we're gonna share these posters also in the second edition of our newsletter. And that's it. Hope you like it.
Thank you so much. And just to say, we've received materials from Venezuela. Tinta Violeta is actually now co-coordinating as a women-led organization with the GBV coordinator in Venezuela. And they have activities happening in all of the states, and they have sent us really beautiful materials. Their whole agenda is developed in advance. So I think, we're going to be putting links to a lot of these materials in our newsletter. So if you're on this call and you also want to share information from the 16 days, you can send it to Shiva and Valentina, and we can include your links in the newsletter. And that's just something that we want to be sharing out. And then just to say, we did send it around to some of you, but the new ERC was in a GBV event in Sudan, and we shared his statement, his commitment to working on the issue of GBV and trying to eliminate it. So that is a statement that will also be shared in the newsletter, and that many of you received, together with the history of the date, as Valentine mentioned, that it did start with women-led organizations in Colombia with 32 women, and it continued to be shared among women's organizations around the globe for 20 years before the UN adopted the 25th of November officially as a UN day. So when people think, oh, this is a UN day, no, it is a UN day, but it was started with women organizations, women's activists, feminists, in Colombia, and 20 years after they started, the UN recognized it. So I just want to show that 32 women who came together from different Latin American countries were at the core of this date. I think that Sarah Martin has also posted the background of this date about the sisters in the Dominican Republic who were honored, the Maribel sisters, in the community of practice. And the help desk has also been sharing materials every day related to the 16 days. So please do check out all of our different channels of the AoR Community of Practice Help Desk, and the information from the different regions, and feel free to share any of it that's relevant to the work that you're doing. And in all of the regions, we've been gathering information that are from the different agencies and organizations and women-led organizations that we have been working with. So I think we are going to leave it for there in terms of timing for the 16 days. And now we're going to have a presentation on cash for protection in specialized standalone protection programming. We're going to have Roberta Gadler from Save the Children presenting next. So we will hand it over to you, Roberta. Roberta, if you're speaking, we can't hear you. Okay, I don't know what's happening because we don't see the mute, but we can't hear you.
Now?
Now we can, yes.
Sorry, it was something with my computer. I'm sorry, I'm trying to also to share my screen so you can, I should be able to share, I guess.
Yes, you have to.
See. Is it okay? Can you see it?
Yes, we can see and we can hear. So
thank you. And thank you again for having me with you today. and to give me the opportunity to present you this piece of work that the task team on cash for protection, that is one of the task team of the Global Protection Cluster, have been working through this year. So maybe some has already participated of some of the presentation we did on this document. So this, and I'm sorry, I didn't present myself, but as you said, I'm working for Save the Children. I'm Roberta, I'm the Cash for Protection Humanitarian Advisor, and I'm also co-coordinating the GPC task team on Cash for Protection. Today I wanted to introduce you quickly to the key consideration for cash for protection in a specialized standalone protection programming note. It is a document that the task team produced this year with the contribution of a smaller group within the task team, so a sub-working group, including as well the focal point for the GBV AoR, and it's meant to support protection and CBA practitioners to better understand and to have some guidances, of course, on what is agreed on the definition, the technical terminology, the minimum requirements of cash for protection. Sorry. Okay. So this is, sorry, it's not working. Something. I hope you can see it still. So as I was saying, that this is a first note that the group produced, and is part of a series of documents that want to outline what cash for protection is, what it does entail, which are the minimum requirements and the key approaches throughout the protection continuum. So as you know, that includes protection mainstreaming, the protection integration. So in this case, protection programming with integrated with the CBA programming, and the standalone and specialized protection programming. So that's where the focus of this document is. And just in terms of information, we have been working on the protection integration, so in cash for protection integrated programming document that we hope will be also released soon. So if we look at the definition of cash for protection, there is a general agreement on this definition, that is, so cash for protection is the intervention where we are using cash and voucher assistance as one of the modalities, to contribute to achieve protection outcomes at an individual or a household level. That means that cash for protection is one of the modalities, so combined with in-kind or service provision, and that is used within a broader protection programming as a part of the protection strategy that aims to reduce the occurrence of or the severity of the impact of protection specific protection risks. So it can be used at a responsive or a remedial action level. So that means that it's useful for preventing, for reducing, or for mitigate the exposure of people to protection risks. The evidence that we have and we also use to produce this document shows that cash alone is not a suitable approach to directly achieve a protection outcome in a sustainable way. And that's why we insist on the point of that cash, when we speak about cash for protection, the cash part of the response should be completed by other protection activities that include, of course, case management or protection monitoring or other kind of protection activities. So in terms of difference, when we speak about cash for protection and multi-purpose cash assistance, that's also something that is really used by different actors. We wanted to clarify the difference, and you have it there with the definition. So when we look at the multi-purpose cash assistance, the objective is to respond to basic needs, to cover the basic needs of people and household, and that's multi-purpose because it's designed to address different kind of needs, of course. While when we look at when we use cash for protection, the focus is really on the protection, to enhance protection of people. So that means that cash for protection cannot be used, is not intended to be used to address exclusively socioeconomic vulnerabilities, but it has to be driven by a causal link between a clearly identified protection concern and analysis on how the cash assistance will contribute to address the protection risk that has been identified. So the two kind of assistance are not mutually exclusive. They can be, of course, combined and used strategically together to enhance protection outcomes, to achieve protection outcomes. I will not go too much into the details, but we wanted to include the key steps as well. So we included in the note the key steps of the program design and as well as implementation. One aspect that it's relevant to mention is a precondition of establishing referral mechanisms. As in protection, we are quite used to do those for GBV, of course, but also for other kind of protection activities. And in this case, we consider important to establish whenever possible referral mechanism with MPCA or CVA sectoral actors to ensure that basic needs can be addressed as well as the protection needs of the people identified. And the other steps that I would really like to mention is the first step of the design. That's the protection risk analysis. So as we said, that the cash for protection is driven by a causal link to the protection risk identified. It's important that this analysis is done at a context and contextualized, of course, in the specific area of intervention to identify the different risks and the different vulnerabilities and capacities of different group of population based on their age, on their gender, and other characteristics. And based on this analysis is where the protection intervention can be defined which type of activities should be included and of course if cash and voucher assistance would be an appropriate modality to respond to the identified protection needs. Sorry. Some key consideration on the for the program design. One is on targeting. So the selection of the cash for protection recipients is made based on an individual protection assessment. So that means that there is no categorical targeting as it may be for other sectors, but the CBA need to be integrated in a product programming that is adapted to the specific needs of the person. And of course, it's based on do no harm principle to make sure that the CBA will not expose people to further risks. and for the transfer value calculation, and there are different methodology to define the transfer value, the amount of the transfer value. The important and guiding principle is again that it should be designed to address the specific protection risks. It's important to have a clarity on which are the services available and the cost of these services or goods that people may need. It's important as well that as a AoR, that there is some kind of analysis to support protection actors to have a range of these costs and to support in defining which is the ceiling or the maximum of this of the transfer value that can be included in the programs. And
we have only like 2 minutes left, so yeah.
I'm at the end. Just quickly on the frequency of transfer, again, cash flow protection is meant to be as tailored as possible to the needs and of each case. So also for determination of the frequency of the transfer, there is need to look at which are the needs of the person. The recommendation is to whenever possible to have unconditional and unrestricted assistance. So that's why we speak about cash for protection, not voucher in general. And I already mentioned the referral system and the importance of coordinating between protection teams and CBA specific teams for support. Just to mention that you can find a lot of useful resources, of course, on the GBV AoR webpage, and as well on the Global Protection Cluster webpage. We have a specific cash for protection e-library. I put the link in the slide, so you can quickly access to it. And we also have a help desk service. So in case you may have any question, any request for support, you can reach out to the task team through the email. Thank you. I will stop here.
Thank you so much. And I think Joanna has written in the chat that if you have any questions, please put them in the chat, and Roberta or Joanna will follow up with the response due to time. So thank you very much. I know cash programming is quite important for a lot of our GBV actors, and so it's good to have these connections, and appreciate your presentation and the resources. And we look forward to continuing to work together. So our last point of today is a shorter call than usual. We usually have an hour and a half. Today we have only an hour. And that's due to just scheduling around some of our guidelines team and some other actors. So just to say, we wanted to do a little bit on the call to action meeting that just happened. We're going to show the video that was shared at the beginning, but we're going to share it at the end. And we will probably run over about 5 minutes. So if you need to get off the call exactly in 11 minutes, feel free just to leave, and we will also include the link in the newsletter. But since Constance is on and she's part of the steering group, Constance, I don't know if you wanted to say a couple of words about the call to action meeting before we turn over to Christine and myself. We're also going to say something. I know there's other core members who are also in call to action that might want to share something, but I don't know if you wanted to say something at the beginning.
I'm happy to share a few things. I also don't know if everyone is familiar with the call to action, and actually that, 2024 is the 11th anniversary of this global advocacy platform. So it's quite, it's quite a time. It exists already. For those who don't know, it has more than 1,100 members across many different stakeholder groups that include states and donors, NGOs, civil society, and also the UN and IOs that came together around the protection from GBV and emergencies. And because you mentioned the video that you will show at the end, that is a video that was produced by the UN and the IOs, because there's also an IO working group, which is currently co-chaired by IOM and UNHCR, and I think Luis is unfortunately not here. But for the NGOs and the women-led organizations, I also want to mention that the working group for NGOs and women-led organizations is currently chaired by Interaction and HDA. HDA is a women-led organization in Lebanon. And because Jenny wanted to reflect a little bit on the annual meeting that took place about 2 weeks ago, that's a regular annual meeting that's usually hosted by the lead state. What was really interesting this time, the lead state, which is Germany at the moment, had engaged external consultants to actually look across the last 10 years of call to action and extract what are the successes, but also the challenges, and then take that together and formulate recommendations for the way forward. And what happened during the 2 days of the annual meeting, the members kind of split up into 4 groups or work streams in order to refine the recommendations that came from the external review. And we looked there at, and I think that's really interesting for the AoR, how can we better engage across platforms and initiatives in order to look at synergies between the different GBV and gender worlds, but also amplifying better our collective efforts and to avoid duplication, particularly in a time, I think, where we do have to come together better as a collective voice. And then there was another second work stream that looked in particular at the work stream on GBV funding, where the AoR is very, very active, but also discussing, should this pivot rather towards GBV prioritization? In general, the third work stream looked at engaging with women-led organizations. How can we do better on that? And I think the last work stream looked at recommendations specific to the roadmap, because the call to action has a multi-year roadmap where the different members make commitments. And here I think the ideas are really to look at priority areas, and also look more at collective efforts instead of individual organizations' efforts. I think the outcomes that the steering committee looked at as priorities, but that's not been, I think, fully formally communicated yet. But for those who are interested, the call to action used to have a secretariat. So I think the members were very clear for a sustainable platform that has to be reestablished. There was agreement on that. Then there's also an interest to lift the call to action into what it was, a high-level political engagement and advocacy forum, to look better or more at cross-stakeholder engagement, and then for a new roadmap to simplify it and really look at selected key priority areas. I think that would be, in a nutshell, what we took away.
Thank you. That was an amazing framing and whole summary. And as Constance was mentioning, you know, and you'll see it in the video if you stick around. But if you can't stick around, Shiva is putting the link into the chat, and we'll also put it in our newsletter. But call to action does include member states, donors, IOs, which includes also the Red Cross, as well as UN agencies, and international NGOs, women-led organizations, NGOs. So that's quite unique, and it also covers internally displaced persons, refugees, and migrants. And you'll hear more about that in the video. But as Constance mentioned, there was some different sort of specialized working groups, and one was on the future roadmap. So we function with a roadmap, and each organization makes commitments that we then look at to see how we're progressing. So Christine Apio, who actually worked on call to action in Nigeria and DRC in the past, now she's with UNFPA, and she was facilitating the group on the roadmap. So she is going to share a little bit about what came out of that group. And Christine, we have only a couple of minutes, so you won't be able to say very much, unfortunately, but over to you.
Thank you so much, Jennifer. I'll be quick, as Constance already highlighted a number of things. So next slide. So as already mentioned, I moderated the breakout session 3, which was focused on the next roadmap. So just want to highlight a few challenges that, sort of were identified before delving into the priorities. There was consensus that there has been deviation from the original purpose of the CTA, which is changing system, transformational work on GBV, and the call to really refocus to that. Weak accountability mechanisms reflected in terms of the engagement of partners, commitments to reporting, etc. But also that is linked to the fact or the feeling that the current roadmap is overly ambitious and complex, and there's a limited focus on prevention. Next. Yeah, and this is linked to the external review outcome that was also presented, so again, if you look at the progress, varying levels of progress across different outcomes, policy and coordination outcome demonstrate the most progress. I mean, I think it is clear why that is, while funding and data outcome shows the least progress. I won't delve much into that. Next. So in terms of the recommendation, and I already alluded to some of these, is redefining the focus of the call to action, being more strategic, practical, with prioritized outcomes, vague, shorter, but more prioritized roadmap that can actually be achieved. Advocacy to be added as a stronger commitment of the next roadmap. Permanent secretariat with a clear terms of reference that will also facilitate easy transition. Next. Yeah, so I think that is all. But the other thing that also came up in my group was around linked to the concerns that women-led organizations repeatedly raise around their safety, around their security, and the fact that there's no provision on enhancing the safety and protection of women-led organizations that are in the forefront, who are partners of the call to action. And this includes also mental health and psychosocial support for them. And there was a suggestion of having a dedicated outcome on supporting each other or partners. Next. So the 3 potential priority outcome areas that have been suggested for consideration for the next roadmap are advocacy, which must include a strong political commitment, considering that GBV is actually also a political issue. Funding, and that must include diversified funding model for women-led organizations, and coordination. Thank you, and over to you, Jennifer.
Amazing, you covered so much so quickly. So I don't have slides, but I'm just going to say I was moderating together with Reem from USAID, from BHA, and we were working with the women-led organizations to hear their opinions. And just to say, we did feel a bit awkward that it was someone from one of the donor member groups and one of the IOs that were facilitating the conversations with women-led organizations, rather than it being them who were moderating. But some of the issues that came up were that it's challenging for women-led organizations if they don't have adequate financial resources and human resources to come through with the commitments that they've made to call to action, that limits some of their their ability to follow through with commitments. And then also one of the issues that they said was it's challenging if you want to become a call to action member, the onboarding process can be quite slow and quite challenging. Like, it's not always clear what that entails. In terms of recommendations, it was around building more trust in women-led organizations. Sometimes they feel like they have to prove themselves, and that's that they want to see a two-way accountability system. And then also having the direct communication between women-led organizations with the member states and donors without intermediaries is something that they see as really positive, and they'd like to see that more of that happening moving ahead with call to action. And then, of course, amplifying women-led organization voices to influence the ways of working, and especially thinking of the new roadmap, that the current roadmap for call to action is ending. And so we'll have a new one for the next 5 years. But right now, we're still trying to identify who will be the next member state to host call to action. And the new roadmap will be part of those new roles and responsibilities. So it's exactly 5:30. We are going to play the video. I encourage you to stay on. It's only about 3 minutes long. And some of our core members are on this call. So you'll see Catherine Poulton and you'll see April Pham. I know she's not on the call now, but many of you know her from OCHA, and some of the different UN agencies talking about why call to action is important to them. And that's going to be the end of our call. And thank you all for joining. And we look forward to, if you want to send information what you're doing on 16 days, and then we'll be sharing the newsletter out to you.
10 years ago, we answered a collective call to action to protect from gender-based violence in emergencies, which was deemed urgent due to lacking prioritization of addressing GBV across humanitarian system, alongside a vacuum of accountability to achieve this. Our collective goals were set in an ambitious roadmap to ensure addressing GBV was a natural reflex rather than request within humanitarian response.
Addressing GBV is a top institutional priority for UNHCR, and we're really keen to continue contributing as a member of the call to action.
At AoR, we believe research and innovation are essential to humanitarian work, delivering higher quality, new solutions, and evidence-led decision-making. GBV is an important area of our work, which is why we applaud and are part of the call to action, as we value the network of committed people and agencies working together on GBV.
The call to action as a global collective strategy has a lot of value. It is about leadership and it is about accountability.
It is the only global platform with a governance structure spanning across states, NGOs, civil society, and the United Nations. It is state-led, but it gives equal voice to all. It is also the only platform that covers all population groups, including IDPs and refugees.
The call to action and the GBV area of responsibility work in a coordinated and complementary fashion, together strengthening both policy and response. Both entities are strengthening our engagement with women-led organizations to amplify their voices and to drive our actions at all levels.
The platform pushes us to sustain our work, to review our policies and practices, and to reflect what we and our partners can continuously do better.
There have been 2 roundtables with the ISC principals to ensure that funding to women-led organizations is tracked and that our agencies are held accountable to the needs of women and girls.
In many ways, we've succeeded. For example, following IOM's commitments, our programming to multi-sectoral response now embeds GBV risk mitigation as a non-negotiable action across all our operations. But we are not there yet. We are currently finding ourselves at another juncture where efforts on addressing GBV are at risk of backsliding, and our collective voices are needed more than ever.
Now, in a world where gender-based violence is being reported in almost all of the emergencies that we work in, we see increasing insecurity and conflict across the world. It is time to double down on the political commitments that were made originally, to double down on the advocacy and the call for more funding, and to heed the calls from survivors, communities, civil society that have been saying we need to step up and to really urgently address the crises against women and girls.
The call to action was important because it said loud and clear that women and girls matter. They matter all the time, including in humanitarian crises. That call remains absolutely relevant today, perhaps even more so. But the call to action needs to be ambitious. How do we make sure that GBV is funded proportionately to an appeal? Make sure and insist that a response is designed for the most vulnerable girl out there. We need to make sure that everyone remembers that women and girls matter.
So thank you all of those who could stay on. And I don't know if I clarified, but the GBV AoR is a member of Call to Action, and as are many of the people on this call. And yeah, we just wanted to share that last global partner meeting, some of a snapshot of what happened there. So thank you all, and I wish you the best for the remainder of the 16 days of activism with all of your influencing and role as activists and changers. And please do go back and find the other videos that were shared earlier that you can amplify and share with your members, because a lot of work went into them. And I think they're a really great way to share voices of adolescent girls and women-led organizations. Have a good afternoon or evening, depending on your time zone. And thank you for joining us. Bye-bye.